All right, everybody, welcome back to the #1 television show in the history of the universe. I am Brian Lee Durfee, author of The Forgetting Moon, The Blackest Heart, and The Lonesome Crown. All three books published by Simon & Schuster's Saga Press. Today, I am going to be reviewing The Looking Glass War by John Le Carre. Just another great thriller novel in the history of John Le Carre's thriller novels. This is one of his earlier ones. I am reading and reviewing all the John Le Carre thrillers in order of publication. This is about the fourth or fifth one I've done. As this was written in 1965. This was the direct follow-up novel to his huge, massive hit novel, The Spy Who Came In From the Cold, which I already read and reviewed on the channel. Just one of the greatest thriller novels, espionage novels ever written. The Spy Who Came In From the Cold put John Le Carre on the map, and then he went on to do another 24 magnificent novels. Now, this was his direct follow-up to his hit novel, and it wasn't a hit. This one kind of flopped. And they're in the prologue, he does a little introduction to this book that we'll get into. But before we do that, let's talk about the cover first, because you know I like graphic design and cover illustration. Most of the John Le Carre novels have been re-released with these kind of snazzy covers here. And I went ahead and bought the entire re-release of all of them. I've got them all here we'll pan through the library here. And I'll show you my John Le Carre collection. It is right down here. Where is it? Where is it? There it is. Those are the John Le Carre books right there. Got them all. Anyway, we'll go back over here, set things back up on the camera stand. So, The Looking Glass War. Like I said, this is his follow-up to his major blockbuster hit, Spy Who Came In From the Cold. And with this book, in the introduction, Le Carre writes that he wanted to write a more realistic view of spycraft than James Bond novels, or even his own previous novel, The Spy Who Came In From the Cold. He felt like he romanticized the work of the spy, right? I mean, in John Le Carre, in his real life, started out working for the British government as a spy in Germany. So he knew the inner working. He did it for a long time, and he knew the inner workings of what spies really did and how their lives really were. And he's like, it's no James Bond adventure novel. It is actually just, it's not like the movies. Spying is really kind of one of the most boring jobs that have ever existed. And it's very bureaucratic, and it's very government top-heavy, administrative-heavy nonsense. And he just wanted to write, as he puts in his words, the muddle and futility of actual spying. And he used from experience, and so he wanted to put that in this novel. Well, apparently, you know, it didn't go over very well with the reading public in Britain. It was a bit of a hit in the United States, but it didn't go over very. And as he was re-evaluating this book, as he was writing the introduction to this book, he's like, I still really love the novel. He's like, I understand why it wasn't as big of a smash as some of my other novels, because I didn't romanticize the spying aspect. I didn't turn this into an action-adventure. I didn't, you know, even The Spy Who Came In From the Cold, it was kind of an action-adventure story with a lot of intrigue and a lot of plot-heavy. He's like, this book is more of just how leaders, and it's part of his George Smiley circus novels. So John Le Carre's got a series of novels like Tinker Tailor Soldier Spy, Spy Who Came In From the Cold, that have this character named George Smiley in it. And he's never really the main character in any of the novels, but it's the George Smiley, it is a George Smiley novel. It says right there. And there's about 9 of them. Of the 20-some-odd books he's written, about 9 of them have this character, George Smiley. Now, George Smiley was played expertly in 2 TV miniseries, Tinker Tailor Soldier Spy and The Smiley's People. Both were made into great miniseries starring Alec Guinness in the early 1980s. And those are well worth a watch. They're just absolutely brilliant miniseries based off of the John Le Carre novels. And but anyway, George Smiley is a character in this book, a very minor character. And the circus is the branch of the British government that does spying. And there's another character in this book named Avery. And we see this mystery play out through these two characters' eyes. And the mystery is basically this. The circus has been given what should be an easy job, and that is to get a roll of film that's got some spy stuff on it from Helsinki to London. Shouldn't be a problem. They're not going through Russia. They're not going through East Germany. They're not going through anything behind the Berlin Wall. It should just be an easy thing to have the courier take this roll of film from one country to the next. Both free countries. They're not crossing any crazy borders or anything. However, this courier somehow gets murdered along the way. And so now they've got to figure out what happened. And the whole novel, the whole premise of this novel, the whole theme of this novel is how administrative people that are the top of law enforcement agencies, if they're not the right leaders, despite how noble they think that their decisions are, can just be bad. They're just, if they're making bad decisions, they're making bad decisions. And if their underlings, if the people that are actually boots on the ground are telling these people, that's not a good idea, don't go through with this idea. You're going to set back the department years and years if you go through this idea. But due to pride or whatever, ego, the people in charge go ahead and implement this policy or implement this idea. How this can affect law enforcement, this can affect spying, this can affect governments, it can affect a lot of things for the negative for generations to come. And that's kind of what the theme of this is. Leaders who mean well but make poor decisions, and how those decisions can have ramifications that will just spill forth bullshit upon employee after employee after employee that comes after and down the line. And it just can wreck, it can absolutely wreck organizations. I've seen this in my own life. You know, if you followed me for any length of time, you know I've had a career in law enforcement, and I currently work at the Utah State Prison. And there are decisions that I see that are made by executive directors that people have said, please don't implement that in our prison. It is going to be a disaster. And once that is said to the person that came up with the idea, they almost double down on the stupidity and go ahead and say, yeah, we're going to do this. By God, we will do this, and I will show you that it will work. And then it doesn't work. And it's an abject failure, and that director is fired, but yet this policy is implemented and it can't be reversed because infrastructure has been built around it, to the point where it's like you've just affected the lives of inmates and prison guards in the negative for generations to come, and it can't be reversed. It's insanity, and it happens. I see it. And I'm not mentioning specifics, but anyway, I know what it can be like to live under those circumstances. And I get the frustration that John Le Carre must have felt in his own career dealing with this phenomena. And that's why he probably wrote it down in a book. And it's absolute brilliance. It's just brilliance. To have a spy novel speak upon those kind of things is just hits home to me. And like I said, it probably hit home to, anyway, it was a good book. I like it. It's a genius book. Genius level writing, John Le Carre every time. I give this book, The Looking Glass War, a 9.5 out of 10. It's just so well written. It's just a literary, Le Carre is just a literary juggernaut and a gift to the world.